All right. Welcome to an emergency episode of the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. This is going up in the middle of the day on a Friday. I should release these on a Monday. So therefore, a emergency edition because a lot of you have been asking me for this. A lot of people have been waiting for it. And finally, the big party cruise next year, the Atlantis Symphony 2026 cruise, has just gone on pre-sale. So, of course, I promise all of you that as soon as this cruise was launched, that I would do a podcast episode about it. And that is what we're gonna talk about today on this lovely Friday. Actually, it's a little cloudy here in Los Angeles. We're into May now. Oh my goodness, summer is fast approaching. You think that in May in Los Angeles, it'd be a little bit warmer than 60 degrees? Anyways, let's not get too sidetracked. But before we move on, I just want to plug my brand new YouTube video that I just released about gay cruise myths and facts. Go check that out. It's been on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T, for about a week now, getting a lot of great comments on it, getting more comments and views on it than I would expect. So especially for those of you who are maybe thinking about doing this Symphony 2026 cruise as your first cruise, go definitely check that out because I think that video is especially great for people who are newer cruisers. And also, because there's so much information I want to go through for this particular cruise, but so many of you have been asking me about it, and so many of you just looking at the Facebook groups, for example, you guys have been like waiting to want to book this for so long. I've got so much information and advice I want to give, and I want to keep this podcast, this first. I'm sure I'm going to do multiple episodes on this specific particular cruise in the coming days and weeks and months. I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter and just going to concentrate on the pre-sale aspect of it. But I'm planning for the next episode of this podcast, I'm going to go into a little bit more details, especially around where on the cruise ship on this specific sailing I think are good and bad places to pick your stateroom in. However, if you do want to just jump right on this one, you have access to the exclusive pre-sales that I'm going to talk a bit more about. You want to do that today, right away. I do have another podcast that I release on March the 10th. That's episode 15 of this podcast. And in that episode 15, I talk about, in generic terms, not specific to any one ship or sailing, where are the best room locations on a cruise ship. If you want to book this cruise today, right away, and you have access to do so, feel free to also listen to that episode as you are looking at which rooms and which part of the ship you want to be located in. Finally, I had wanted to do this and record this and get this episode up the day that I got the email from Atlantis launching the pre-sale for this, which was on April 30th, which was 2 days ago. But because I need to make money, you know, I have other jobs and other businesses that to pay the bills. So if you appreciate any of my YouTube videos and you appreciate this podcast, you appreciate the content and information and advice I'm giving you, give the fucking bitch $1, okay? You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, the video version of all my podcasts are available on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. Under each YouTube channel, there is a quote-unquote thanks button. You might have to click on like the 3-dot menu or like the little thing to pop out the additional buttons. It's hidden sometimes beside the like buttons. Hit the thanks button and you can leave me a tip right into YouTube. And I also have Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to leave me just like a few dollars here, a few dollars there, I would super, super greatly appreciate it. And all the money you guys tip basically goes straight into the production of my content, my YouTube videos, and this podcast. And who knows, if I have a few more dollars from some of you bitches, I'd be able to get this type of podcast out right away when these announcements come out. So everyone has this timely information, critical, super useful advice right away when everybody wants it. Anyways, enough of my plugs. Let's move right on to this cruise. Let's go through some basics first. A lot of you kind of know about this cruise at a high level already, but I do know that there are quite a few listeners of my podcast and watchers of my videos that have not been on a cruise before. They're super curious and they are actually looking to book this one as their first one. So it's got some nicknames, this one. I've called it the Party Cruise many a times on YouTube videos and on this podcast. Sometimes Atlantis has referred to this one as the big one because it is on one of the biggest cruise ships in the world. In the official email from Atlantis from 2 days ago, launching the pre-sale, they are referring to it, and I quote, the Atlantis Mega Cruise. But anyways, let's get on to the basic information. This is going to be from February the 1st to the 8th in 2026. That's Sunday to Sunday. This is going to be 7 nights. Miami is where we're going to be sailing out of. It will also come back to Miami. We have the itinerary here. It's going to go to Labadee, which is a semi-private island in Haiti. So Royal Caribbean, there's a portion of that island that is private to them, and they've set up a lot of different activities and little excursions. There's like a beach there. San Juan, Puerto Rico makes a return. We were supposed to have gone to San Juan this year on the Allure 2025 cruise back in February, but the pier at San Juan, they were still doing some construction, so we weren't able to dock there. But looks like we're supposed to go back to San Juan, and we will also be going to Saint Martin as well. Those are the 3 ports of call. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be our Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Sea. So for this particular party cruise that Atlantis does every single year at the beginning of the year, January or February, has almost always been on the Oasis class of ships from Royal Caribbean. So some of these ship names might be familiar to you if you've been following Atlantis or these cruises for quite a few years now. So there's Oasis was the first one in the Oasis class of ships. Then there's the Allure, then Harmony, and then Symphony, which is the 4th ship to be launched in this class of ships from Royal Caribbean. So this year in 2025, we sailed on the Allure, which actually first sailed in 2010. And it hadn't really gone under a major refurbishment. The funny thing is, in April, so 2 months after Atlantis sailed the Allure of the Seas, in April, it went into a major refurbishment. But anyways, Symphony of the Seas is a much newer ship, first launched in 2018. So this is actually an important thing to kind of keep in mind, because it does have an effect on the bookings and the rooms. The Allure, when we went on it this year, it's showing a little bit of wear and tear. So being on a much newer ship is going to give us a nicer experience. But basically, it's still one of the biggest ships in the world. It's about 5,500 passengers at double capacity. If you max out every single room, because a lot of rooms can actually sleep more than 2 people, this ship can actually hold 6,680 passengers, which is a hell of a lot of people. Before we move on to the meat of this podcast episode, which is talking about the release schedule of the sales and how the sales actually will proceed, I want to highlight a couple of things that are included with the fare. So for the Allure Cruise in 2025, Atlantis included a number of drink tickets with every single room, and they also included a complimentary specialty restaurant voucher. So they're doing something very, very similar for the Symphony 2026 cruise. So as you are going through the booking process, looking at prices, just keep in mind that these things are going to be included again as part of your standard fare at no extra cost. So I was careful not to say that is exactly like how it was last year, because the wording in Atlantis' material suggests that there's a little bit of a difference to each of these 2 things. So I'm just going to read it straight off the Atlantis email and website here. All bookings now include a starter package of 42 of our new universal drink tickets per stateroom. The new part here is the quote-unquote universal part. Previously, they were just called drink tickets. This universal quote-unquote part is new. There's no information in the email on the website anywhere that says what this quote-unquote new universal type of drink ticket is and how it's different from previous drink tickets, what you can buy, what you can't buy with it. One of my personal beefs with the drink tickets on previous Royal Caribbean Atlantis sailings is that it did not work for Starbucks. So I don't know if on this ship maybe it now works for Starbucks. But anyways, and the other thing is there's going to be 2 complimentary specialty dinners for specialty restaurants included as part of everyone's fare. So again, 2 per room or like 1 per person. On the Allure 2025 cruise, the wording was a little bit different. It said specialty restaurant vouchers, and it said it was good for lunch or dinner. Now here it says dinners, and it doesn't mention, it seems to be maybe more specifically locked down to only like the dinner time service where this is going to work. Again, hopefully we'll get more information from Atlantis as we get closer to the cruise. But just a couple of things to keep in mind. You are going to get some drink tickets, and you are going to get some complimentary dinners at some of the premium restaurants with your booking. So one of my earliest teenage obsessions was skincare. Instead of looking at toys in the kids section at the store, I was looking at moisturizers in the skincare section. As I grew up and navigated my sexuality, I saw that most of the beauty industry was aimed at feminine women, sometimes at masculine men, but everyone else was left out. It wasn't for someone like me. With Surf Labs, I wanted to create a fun skincare experience for everyone. I'm pretty sure your skin doesn't care how mask or femme you are or who you love, but I'm absolutely sure you need to take care of it. Check us out at surflabs.co, SERVELABS.co, and you can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at surflabs. All right, we're moving on to the meat of the pie. I don't know what the meat of it, the juicy, succulent meat of the podcast episode, which is the sales. Let's talk about the pre-sale. So the launch is the pre-sale launch. I always get questions about how a Atlantis cruise launch actually is kicked off in terms of like who gets access to the rooms, to book them at what time, and how that's done for this particular sailing. On April 30th, when they initially sent out the email, that email was only sent out to people who were booked and were guests on the Allure 2025 cruise, okay? So just for those people who have not been on any Atlantis cruises before and don't know why I'm referring to the Allure cruise so much, you might not even know about the Allure cruise, okay? They've run basically the same cruise in previous years before. Maybe not on the exact same ship because that's up to availability. But it's like, you know, Halloween comes every year. So if you had like a Halloween party this year, you probably had a Halloween party last year. So just like they have this party cruise in 2026 that they just announced, they had the same party cruise in 2025, in 2024, and back and so on and so forth, okay? So Atlantis has the thing where if you were on the party cruise in the previous year, you get early access to book next year's equivalent party cruise. The Allure is the 2025 version of this Symphony cruise in 2026. Because of that, guests that were on Allure in February 2025, they currently right now have an exclusive pre-sale for the Symphony 2026 cruise before anyone else. Again, please consider tipping me a little bit of money, supporting this podcast and supporting the YouTube channel, supporting the content, because I really wish I had time to record this podcast a little earlier, because the exclusive pre-sale period for people who were on the Allure cruise, it ends today at noon Pacific, which is right around the time this podcast is going to go up. However, don't freak out, okay? At 12 p.m. noon Pacific time on Friday, May the 2nd, which is the day this podcast is uploaded, at noon, the Symphony bookings will open up to people who are on the other 2025 Caribbean sailing. And I'm expecting a lot of people listen to this to be like, I have no idea what you just said. Like, what is this quote unquote other 2025 Caribbean sailing? Atlantis usually does 2 sailings from Florida down to the Caribbean at the beginning of every year. Okay, they do the big party cruise, the big one, the mega cruise, whatever you want to call it. So Allure was the one in 2025. there is another Caribbean cruise that they do, usually within a few weeks of the big party cruise. And a lot of people don't know about that because it kind of lives in the shadow of the party cruise a little bit. It's a smaller sailing. It is definitely not as much of a party crowd. All the partiers who go on the party cruise, so that means all the people who are not so much partiers, they go on the other cruise. So they did have one in 2025, by the way. Just that a lot of you might not know about it. So basically, starting from noon Pacific on May the 2nd, people on that other Caribbean sailing will also have access to the Symphony 2026 pre-sale. Now, don't freak out. But it sounds like, oh my God, I was on alert. Like, I have to book it by noon today. You only given me like 5 minutes to book this cruise. Joey, what the fuck are you doing? Do not freak out because, like I said, the passengers that are on the other Caribbean sailing, they don't tend to be the ones that are interested in this cruise. There's very little overlap between the people who want to go on the party cruise and the people who want to go on the other Caribbean cruise. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you were on Allure, you still have time to like look through the bookings, count your pennies, break open that piggy bank. We'll talk about pricing a little bit later. Okay, you're still good. The next significant date in the release schedule is that on May the 6th, in the email it said May the 5th, but a few places on the website it says May the 6th. I'm going to go with May the 6th. On May 6th, the bookings will open up to all alumni, all Atlantis alumni. So that's really where you'll get another big floodgate of people book. That's the alumni pre-sale is what I like to call it. I mentioned the alumni pre-sale a few times on some episodes of the podcast. So who are alumni? Alumni is basically anyone who's sailed with Atlantis before. I think Atlantis has a thing where like you have to have sailed with them like 3 or 5 times to technically be an alumni. I think if you sail with them twice, I'm not sure you technically qualify. It's like 3 or 5 times, something like that. And also within their pool of alumni, they also have them divided up into different tiers internally. Okay, so someone who's done 5 sailings might not have access, quite as early of an access to alumni pre-sales as someone who's done like 30 sailings before. So the more you sail with Atlantis, sometimes the earlier you have access to the alumni pre-sale compared to like other alumni. Okay, so that kicks off May the 6th. May the 12th is when the Symphony cruise goes on public sale. That means like anyone off the street can go book it. Okay, it will appear on the public Atlantis website for everyone to see. They will probably do a email blast to anyone and everyone on their email list that anyone can sign up for from their website. So these are the key dates, okay? Basically from now until May the 6th, people who were on Allure have exclusive pre-sale booking privileges for the cruise. Then May the 6th, all Atlantis alumni will have access to it. There should be an email blast for that. And then May the 12th, it goes on public sale. All right, a couple of notes on this before we get into like the nitty gritty of the booking. If you have a friend who was not on Allure, let's say you were on Allure and you have access to the exclusive pre-sale right now, and you have a friend who was not on Allure, maybe they have never even been on Atlantis or been on any cruise, and you want to be roommates with them on the Symphony cruise, you can just go book the room yourself because you have access to the pre-sale and your potential roommate does not. Once you secure your booking, then you can add your friend in as your cabin mate on that cruise. So you make the booking as if you were gonna have the room all to yourself. Once your booking is confirmed, then you can add your friend in, add their name onto the reservation. So that's how that will work. And that's how generally it works. If you book a room all to yourself and for whatever reason, at some point later on, you want to add someone in as the second person in the room and as your roommate, you can just like go in and add them. It's usually not a huge deal. And also, if you were on Allure and you made that Allure booking with a travel agent, sometimes they do kind of expect that if you book the previous cruise with a travel agent, that you might do the same for the equivalent cruise for the upcoming year. So if you did use a travel agent for Allure, maybe reach out to your travel agent for Symphony. All right, let's go into some of the nitty-gritty details There are a lot of details in the cruise, but if you have to be driving while you're listening to this, maybe don't, because I don't want you to crash, and my insurance doesn't cover your liability on the road. All right, this section right here is going to be for everyone who's on Allure, and that's going to be the focus right now because only you guys can book it at this moment. We're just going to go through all the details that you need to know if you're on Allure and you're looking to book Symphony for 2026. First of all, check your inbox. You should have received an email from Atlantis on April 30th. And that email has a lot of information, a lot of which I'm going to summarize and highlight the important parts for you because I don't know anyone that reads that whole email or any of the emails from Atlantis in full because it's very wordy. So don't worry, I got you. I'm going to highlight the important parts for you. Some of the important parts of the email is that you're going to have a unique link in that email for you to access Atlantis's online reservation system. And supposedly that link is unique to every single person. So you can't just send a link to someone else. Each unique link can only be used for one booking. If you send that link to a friend and a friend does the booking before you do, I think you might be locked out. So don't share that link. And again, if you did your Allure booking with a travel agent, feel free to just hit up your travel agent. They will probably take care of you and make the whole thing easier. Now, one new thing for this cruise that Atlantis does not usually do is that you are not able to just easily keep your exact same room that you had on Allure for Symphony. A lot of the times, Atlantis would make it so that if you sailed on last year's equivalent cruise, they will let you have first dibs on the exact same room down to the room number for the upcoming next year's cruise. Now, because Symphony and Allure are kind of different ships, they're the same class of ships, they're very similar, but Symphony is quite a newer ship and it's got quite a few changes. And specifically, the room numbers don't match for the same rooms on Allure and Symphony. And there are some rooms where there is no identical equivalent because the layout for some of the rooms, and especially for some of the suites, are different now. Symphony actually has a few more suites and a few more rooms. So because there's no perfect match between the room and room numbers on Allure versus Symphony, Atlantis is not able to just basically hold the same room and room number on Symphony for the people that were booked on Allure. So especially for the folks that have done rebookings with Atlantis before and are used to this system where you get to keep your exact same room and room number and you get first dibs on it, that has gone out the window for Symphony because they are not, according to them, technically able to do it. Basically, it's a free-for-all. Okay, I've never been big on keeping my exact room. I don't mind if my room or room number changes. I kind of like a little bit of variety personally, but I know there's some people that they do like the system where, yeah, just give me the exact same room for next year. Make it easy. I don't have to think about it. But unfortunately, that is not the case for Symphony. You will need to go into the system yourself or work with your travel agent or call Atlantis. That's also an option too. And you basically have to pick a room as if you're booking it for the first time, kind of. Maybe your exact same room number and room is available if there is the same equivalent, maybe not, but just letting you out there know you're not necessarily going to be able to keep your same room and room number. However, right now, the ship is wide open. There's a lot of availability, so you shouldn't have trouble booking the type of room that you want. Now, there are some discounts for certain rooms for people who were on Allure, okay? So I'm going to just read this out from Atlantis' email. All guests who sailed on Allure and booked the following categories will save up to $250 per room. And I've been in Atlantis' reservation system and play around with it to figure out how it works, okay? The discounts are only applicable to balcony rooms. Either it's an ocean balcony for some of the rate types, some of the room types, or it's going to be a boardwalk or Central Park balcony, or an interior balcony that faces the interior boardwalk or the interior Central Park. If you were to use the online reservation system and pick a room, when you get to the part of the process where it shows you the cost breakdown, you will very clearly see a line item highlighting the discount. So that's how you can confirm with the specific room that you booked and that particular rate class whether the discount applies to you or not. There'll be a very clear line in the breakdown before you confirm the booking, and it's gonna say alumni discount. Only certain type of balcony rooms are eligible. So for the ocean view balconies, it says the exceptions are 1A, 1C, 4D, and 5D. But it looks like all the boardwalk and all the Central Park balconies are eligible, no exceptions there. So it's $250 off a room for the ocean view balcony rates are eligible, and it's $200 per room off for the boardwalk and Central Park balconies that are eligible. Again, if you are doing the reservation yourself on the Atlantis website, just look for that alumni discount line item in the pricing breakdown as you're going through the booking process before you confirm the booking to make sure that you've selected a room that has the discount, which is a pretty decent discount. I would kind of, if you're going to book a balcony room, unless you want to get a type of balcony room that is like very different, one of the extra large balcony rooms, for example, that doesn't qualify it, I would probably lean towards booking a room that has one of those discounts. Most of you probably have a facial cleanser and moisturizer already, so I want to tell you about Shield and Slay DP, which is an anti-pollution hydration spray I formulated specifically for my skincare line, Serve Labs. This is actually a product I've been looking for years now and haven't been able to find on the market, which is something that was a hydration spray but also has anti-pollution, antioxidant properties for your skin. Shield and Slay DP is the ultimate double protection defense for your skin, teaming up antioxidants, probiotics, along with hydrating ingredients to fend off environmental stressors and aggressors. You can use it as part of your daily skincare routine, but I've also designed it so you can use it while you're out and about, on an airplane, or whenever your skin feels dry, dull, or a bit worse for wear. All you have to do is spray it on. Check out Shield and Slay DP along with the rest of the Serve Labs skincare lineup at servelabs.co, servelabs.co, and you can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at ServeLabs. Okay, let's talk a little bit about suites. It's a small minority of you that are wanting to book suites, but suites are very special. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly go over it. Suites have to be booked in a separate process. You have to submit a special form to Atlantis to request for a suite. You can't just like book it and confirm it right away. Atlantis has like this very different system for figuring out who gets a suite and who can book it and who can't, because demands for suites are always super high. There's always gonna be way more people that want to book a suite than there are the number of suites available. But basically, if you were on Allure, in the email, there'll be a separate link to a form to put in a request for a suite, and you want to submit that by 5 p.m. Pacific, May the 2nd. Again, this is the day that this podcast comes out on. I feel like a lot of people that are booking suites, they probably don't need my advice. They're probably pros. But anyways, I mentioned it just in case. Anyone that was on Allure can put in this request. People that were in a suite on Allure, they will have higher priority for the request they submit versus someone on Allure who was not in a suite. They do have like this different priority system for how they assign the suites. But anyone who was on Allure, you got the same email as the people who were in suites. You can also submit that form to request for a suite as well. But otherwise, they're going to fulfill the request for the suites based on alumni status. Okay. And the thing is, because a lot of people that want to get a suite don't get one, what you should do is book a regular room that's not a suite. And if you really want a suite, at the same time, also put in the request form to request for a suite. If you do get a suite, Atlantis picks you, they will just move you from the regular room you booked as a backup up to the suite that Atlantis got you in for. So that's probably what you want to do, because it's not guaranteed that you can get a suite. The people who booked a suite on Allure, they have top priority. Those are the only people that I think you might not need to book a standard room as a backup. But for everyone else, if you had a regular room on Allure and you want to go for a suite, the chance of you getting a suite, there's going to be a lot of other people that don't want to book it. I would just go book a regular room, and you can also put in the form to request for a suite, and just fingers crossed for you. Okay, just in case you're listening to this and you were not on Allure, either you are a alumni of Atlantis, you've sailed with them at least a few times, or you have not sailed with Atlantis before. That's everyone else, okay? So the people who are alumni, who are not on Allure, mark your calendars, May the 6th, you should be getting an email from Atlantis with a link for you to access the Alumni pre-sale. And then a lot of what I've talked about earlier will apply to you once you have access. You'll basically have the link in the email that you get from Atlantis to go into their reservation system. You can also call up Atlantis, or you can just hit up your travel agent. Some of you might not get the email right on May the 6th. Again, Atlantis tend to have different alumni tiers internally. So they might stagger which alumni get the emails first before others. So again, if you've been on 30 or 40 Atlantis cruises, you might get the email early morning on May the 6th. But if you've only been on like 4 or 5 cruises of Atlantis, you may not get it till like a little bit after that. And the alumni pre-sale exclusive period ends on May the 12th, that Monday, because that's when the public sales start. I know there's a lot of Atlantis alumni out there. There's about 5,500 people that was on the Allure. There's like many tens of thousands of people that are alumni. If you are on Allure, I would strongly recommend you book it before May the 6th. I do expect this one to sell out. Actually, I don't think it's going to sell out like this month. But the earlier you book it, the more selection of the different rooms you're going to have access to. So everyone else, again, mark your calendars for May the 12th, and that's when it's going to be on public sale. All right, the last little bit I want to talk about are some of the fees, and just to give you a feel for how much this cruise is going to cost. Okay, cruises are not cheap. If you were booked on Allure, I think you already have an idea how much it is going to cost. I don't think the prices has really jumped up significantly. I don't have the full price list for the 2 cruises, but just looking at the prices as it is right now for Symphony, it seems to be like similar prices to Allure. So I don't think there's been like a significant jump. So some fees to be made aware of. So most of the prices that you're gonna see listed when you go book it, those are what we call double occupancy prices. Okay, maybe you see a room that's listed on the website or on the booking system, and it says that it's $2,000. Okay, that $2,000 is the per person base price, assuming there's going to be 2 people to that room. So that's what we mean by is a double occupancy rate. You see that term double occupancy rate quite a bit when you look at the different parts of the website, and it will get brought up as well. Okay, so this theoretical $2,000 room is listed, balcony room for $2,000. $2,000 is the per person base price. And on top of that, you get to add on some fees, okay? So this would be $140 prepaid gratuities per person, okay? So you and your roommate will each pay $140 in prepaid gratuities. And there's a $490, it's a very long term for this, $409 non-commissionable fares and port fees per person. So you and your roommate each will pay an additional $490. Okay, I just call them port fees for short. $140 in gratuities, $490 in port fees. So to the $2,000 you see listed, you're gonna add $630 per person, and so that's what $2,630, and that's your share. Your roommate will also pay that same $2,630 in this theoretical example. For those of you who want to book a room all to yourself, you're gonna have to double everything. So the $2,000 that's listed, that's now $4,000. The $140 gratuities is now $280. The port fees that were $490, that's now $980. You just basically double everything. Double the port fees, double the gratuities, double that base price you see listed. To give you a rough idea what the pricing right now is like, so there's a few different class of staterooms. The interior rooms have no balcony, no windows, no view to the outside world at all. You're looking at about $2,100 with the fees, assuming double occupancy. These are all kind of with fees, double occupancy, approximate prices, just to give you an idea of like what the cost of this cruise is going to be. So for like an interior room, which are the least expensive type of rooms, you're looking at about $2,000 to $2,100 per person if you have a roommate with the fees. Next class up is a view. So it's got a window, okay? So it could be an ocean view or can look out into the boardwalk or into the Central Park. So that's another like $100 or so. That's like $2,100 or $2,200. The next class up is the interior balconies. So it's not an ocean balcony. is a balcony that looks over the boardwalk or Central Park. You're not going to see any water. And that's about $2,300 to $2,400. It's going to be about a couple $100 more. Finally, the ocean balcony rooms. You have a balcony that opens up to the ocean. These are the most populous type of rooms on most cruise ships, and also the most popular type for cruisers. You're looking at about 25 to 26 or even 2,700. With the ocean balconies, they have quite a few different types. There's some ocean balconies that are like a little bit bigger, for example. There's a little more of a variety in the types of ocean balcony rooms that you can get. So the price range is like a little bit bigger for that one, like $2,500 to $2,700 per person. That's kind of roughly the price you're looking at to get on Symphony. All right. I thought I'd be able to get through this podcast a little bit quicker. What are we at? Like 35-ish, 40 minutes? Yeah, so I do have more I want to talk about. One question I get asked quite frequently is like, newer cruisers that like don't know what type of room to choose, and I always get asked like, oh, I'm going on this specific cruise, Joey, I want to book this specific cruise. Where on the cruise should I pick a room, and what are like the pros and cons? So again, that's going to be the topic of an upcoming, maybe I'll do it for the next one, but basically follow me on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T, or subscribe to this podcast everywhere on whatever app or platform that you listen to your podcasts. And on a very soon upcoming podcast episode, I will go through for this specific ship and sailing where I think are good places on the ship to book a room and bad places to book a room. Just going through some of the information, looking at like the deck plans, looking at different rates, I can definitely tell like, okay, you want to avoid these areas for sure. And these areas are like some hidden gems. And these areas are like really like the sweet spot if you have like a little extra money. So I want to get into all of that. We just do not have time to fit it into this emergency episode of the podcast. I want to just get this out as soon as I can, so that all of you at least have like the basic information and you all just know that, okay, we are kicking off the pre-sale for the Symphony of the Seas 2026 cruise with Atlantis. Again, check out my gay cruise myths and facts video on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. That YouTube channel is also where the video version of this podcast is available every single week. And in the meantime, if you want a little extra help picking a location on the ship for a room you want to book today, you can't wait for that next podcast episode where I'm going to dig into good and bad areas on the Symphony of the Seas to book. Check out my March 10th podcast, episode 15, for some general information on that. Until next time, bye y'all, and happy booking.